Hello, PLX Partner Led Product Day. We are here with Kenny Brown, CEO of Partner Fleet, and Katie Spalding, Product Manager for Developer Platform and Ecosystem of Clary. And what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be diving right into our journey with the Innovators method through partnerships. And what we're going to be talking about today is the journey, of course, and how to take your product strategy to that next level. And the result is, of course, greater efficiency, transparency, and exponentially impacting the feedback flywheel. All right. If you're excited for that, you got to show us in the chat. Throw some emojis in there. Give us some thumbs up. We want to see just how excited you are to hear from Kenny and Katie today for this fireside chat. And let's dive right into it. Let's talk about the benefits of incorporating partner feedback and solutions into product road mapping. Why is that so impactful? Kenny, Katie, tell us.
Yeah, so I'm happy to jump into that one. One of the big things that I've always found, so I've been a product manager, a couple different companies, and there's a thing called survivorship bias that I always found when getting feedback for my own roadmap, right? I only got to talk to the people who were in front of me. It had to go find people. It was difficult. When I started working with partners and started talking to the partner teams and talking to partners, customers as well on that joint value prop, all of a sudden I started to get a wider market analysis, and it was able to help me really focus on, what the problems customers were having outside of just the ones that my existing customers were telling me, right? And be able to expand my opportunity of talking to other prospects.
Yep. I would agree with that. And I would add that at Clary, we think about our partnership conversations as one of the main mechanisms we use to really expand our horizons in terms of ways that our product can be used and people that our product can be used for and verticals we can service. So we think about our partnership conversations as fueling the list of desired integrations and use cases that we need to go after next. And so our partnerships are really innovation sort of incubators for us. And that's where we start to get really creative about new personas we can expand into, verticals we can expand into, and ways to make the product even stickier for existing personas.
That's interesting. And so we got some hints there of why product leaders should listen to partners. You mentioned, tapping into new markets. Why does this dynamic work out so well? Partnerships can be complex, but they deliver a lot of value through the, integrations and how they either complement or supplement or even fill the gap. So tell me more about why product leaders should listen to partners and how it actually helps them do their job better.
Yeah, one of the areas that I think is really valuable to think about from that perspective is you nailed it, right? Partnerships are more complex. You're not just thinking about how your product solves a problem for your customer, but you're now thinking about how does the market as a whole, you with these other solutions, provide not just that initial value, but how do you have 1 + 1 = 3? And so you have to think a lot deeper. You have to explore a lot deeper when it comes to partners, and they're bringing a lot of data to the table. A really good, actually, example of this is I spoke to a company last week who their product today is essentially a marketing automation solution. But what their product does is it helps you identify people to go after in the market, send some cadences to them to try and make some sales. Well, through partnerships, they're going to start partnering with other types of solutions like applicant tracking systems. And ultimately, that's the same product they have. And now they're going after a brand new market by being able to help recruiters identify people to recruit and send email cadences to them. And so that when you start to listen, you start to hear about those larger market opportunities and get outside of the silo of just yourself.
Yep, couldn't agree more. At Clary, our partnerships and product teams are working hand in glove. I spend the majority of my week with my engineers and my partnership counterparts. And the reason that product leadership cares so much about partnerships, involvement and engagement with our product team is because our leadership understands that integrations resulting from strong partnerships will not only the good ones will amplify our brand, will make us look even bigger, will help us mature our ICP, and in some ways expand into brand new verticals, right? Which create and could also give us new ideas for new products, Clary built products ourselves that could create new revenue streams. Our leadership understands that partnerships are the mechanism by which we experience exponential growth. So they are completely bought in, and where I'm part of the reason I love working at Clary so much is because there's such a strong partnership between the partnerships team and the product team.
That's amazing. I want to dive deeper into that because that sounds like the result of something. Why does your product team listen? Or was it just like built into the entire company culture? Was it, partnerships got in early for the product team engaging with the partnerships team? What was that catalyst for it? What do you think?
I would say for us, it's the understanding that partnerships are one of the key ingredients to creating a platform, to moving from beyond a really cool startup to a legendary company. You do need to expand and mature beyond a awesome point solution that accomplishes 2 or 3 use cases really well to actually becoming an extensible platform. And so myself and RJ Filipski, our head of partnerships and biz dev, we're talking all the time about how an extensible platform is built through partnerships. As long as we make it easy to send data into and push data out of Clary, we can actually fuel far more integrations and more use cases than we can build ourselves at Clary. We actually make time to value, we cut time to value for brand new use cases and personas. And we really make it, we fuel our transition from a point solution to platform.
That is very powerful. We're going to have to clip that because you used the word legendary, and that is going to impact a lot of people when they're thinking about how do we make a legendary product? Well, you said it here. And Kenny, I would like your thoughts on how can a team get into the product org as a partner team. I'm curious about your perspective because I know that you've built products in the past, and of course are building your own product. Where does that ethos start? Let's say a partner person's on the call today. How do they get in front of that product team? What are your thoughts on how to build that?
Yeah, so there's a couple key things there, in my opinion. The first one is most people don't realize that the products they love because of partnerships. So when I'm having those conversations with people who aren't fully bought into product or partnerships, I'll ask them, well, what's your favorite SaaS product you use at work, and what's your favorite thing you use at home? And you'll get some common ones like, well, I like Salesforce. Well, why do you like Salesforce? Oh, because it centralizes all my data in one place, gives me everything I need. That's partnerships. I used an example when talking to Katie yesterday. Keurig, right? Keurig, everyone loves their Keurig, but Keurig doesn't create every single one of those coffee cups. They have partnerships with every company that creates coffee, hot chocolate, cider. And so partnerships are really what make a product you love a product you love. And so that's one of the key things there is bringing that to people's attention. And then the second thing with product teams specifically is a product manager's goal is to identify problems and solve them. And one of the most difficult ways to connect with a product manager is to come to them with a solution. Come to them with the problem first. Talk about what customers are saying. Introduce them to the partner team's customers who are having this problem, this gap. And then all of a sudden they'll start thinking about it and realizing that by bringing those two products together, they're actually solving a problem that they hadn't identified before.
Awesome. And so I made a cheeky comment of who here actually likes Salesforce, but it immediately made me think, well, organizations still use Salesforce, even though it can be a clunky beast. And the reason for that is because the integrations that they have are so powerful, and it's part of the product to be developed to be a platform where all of this information is coming in. So even if people don't really like using it, they're still choosing that option because it has so many integrations built into the product. So I like that call out. That's a really good example. And so this leads us to how can partner teams better prepare their product team. So Kenny, you were talking about coming to them with a problem and, how is this solved for the customer? That is, of course, what the product teams care about. What kind of, data points should they be using, or, how can I, as a partner person, prepare for that conversation? What should I be gathering, and where can I find those data points?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is customer feedback, and ideally customer feedback or prospect feedback of people who haven't made it into your funnel. So they haven't submitted a lead, but they're part of the partners network, or find it out yourself as you're talking to other industry professionals. Because as a product manager, you only get to talk to the people who submit a lead. Whether or not they become a customer or not doesn't matter. If they never gave you their email, you can't talk to them. And so creating a way to connect the product team with those people is incredibly valuable. And then really starting to identify kind of the want versus need versus nice to have. One of my favorite examples of this is, if you have no retention problems and 80% of your customer base uses Salesforce, you don't need to build a Salesforce integration if you've got bandwidth problems, because customers are fine using Salesforce and your product without an integration. If you've got retention issues, go build the integration, or come to them with a new integration that's going to open up that new market.
Amazing. And Katie, what are your thoughts on just a slight variance to the question of what should you not be bringing to your partner team? What is perhaps the worst thing to bring to a conversation that they're just going to go, oh, this isn't going to work, or, I'm too busy. What are the things that they shouldn't be bringing? And the reason I ask this is because I feel like a lot of salespeople fall into this trap where they're, oh, I need this for a sale. And then it kind of fizzles out, or the product team might directly say, get out of my face. We're way too busy. We got to focus on the roadmap. What are your thoughts on, the things not to bring to the table for those conversations?
I would say I'll answer your question with a corollary of the question, which would be,
Mhm.
in a perfect world, product managers are brought the method by which this partnership can help you solve a problem, and not why it's good for brand amplification to go build this thing. Like, product managers are laser focused. The good ones are laser focused on delivering customer value. And if you can explain to me why this step that I need you to build, Katie, is really instrumental and will be an incremental step in our crawl, walk, run phase with this partnership, and I can understand the value of run for our customers, then that automatically, then that helps back into the value of crawl. So, and then one other tip I would have is, make sure that you are working partnership and product hand in hand to build a prioritization matrix, which is what we do at Salesforce. So every new integration concept or idea that comes our way, I worked with our partnerships team to come up with a prioritization matrix that includes my priorities and their priorities, which really are in favor of the same goal. What's best for product is best for the company. What's best for partnerships is best for the company. So if you can get both of your teams to align on that common North Star, pass every new integration through a prioritization framework, come up with a score, and then use that score as a quantitative metric to justify any product build, I think you're golden.
Amazing. And so go ahead.
I was just going to add one more thing. Don't come to product with a partner who's not interested in moving forward. That's kind of one of the other things. Don't come and say, oh, they have a partner program, we need you to join. And once you join, we're going to get these wonderful things. You want to come to them with a partner who is excited about it, who's thinking about the problems that you can solve together.
Yeah.
Don't come with a program, come with an actual partner in mind that's ready to move forward with it.
I love it. And so, of course, that leads us to, what kind of data points should we be bringing? What are those things that we can gather, when we maybe don't have the integration fully built, or, it's not part of our road mapping strategy? What things can we look to find with our partners to enable that conversation? What are your thoughts?
I think there's a lot of really good A/B testing. There's several books I've read that talk about the button that does nothing other than records that someone clicked it. put a coming soon somewhere. We have a customer who launched their marketplace and they had a coming soon for an integration that was a few months away. And they generated something like 50 leads from that, just people clicking that and submitting their information saying they're interested in that integration. And so just test it before you even build anything. You can start to get customers to commit to turning it on if it happens. And then worst case scenario, you get 50 customers who said they were interested and you come back to them and say, hey, we didn't actually move forward with this.
I love that. As someone who's not as technically inclined, I'm curious about how easy it is to build a button, because I'm always told, oh, we can't just, it's not as easy as just putting a new button here. Is that actually easy? It sounds like a great tactic. I would love to see that in practice, because like you said, it can generate actual leads and, validate ahead of time. Is that easy? Is that something that people can do? I'm thinking for the people who are watching, should they go ask their product team to create a button essentially?
My experience has been that's more on the marketing team. Create a very simple one pager,
Nice.
or just a link somewhere that says, interested in this integration, sign up now. And you can start to get that list of people. And really, the benefit of that for the product team as well is you also have a list of people to validate what you're going to build against. If they're interested in it, now you have people who will tell you how the two tools should be working together.
Nice. And Katie, in your experience, what are those data points that help you to bridge that gap between, the partnerships team and the product team? What have you used in your day to day?
Yeah, it's interesting because there often at Clary isn't a gap between partnerships and product, but I'm thinking about why that might be. And a big reason there, the way I've diagnosed it is because both teams can describe the value in the story for the end user. Now, if there were a feature request coming our way, what we probably would look for and what would strengthen the argument a little bit more would be anything related to ARR. So if we could pull a list in Salesforce of closed loss deals versus requested features that contributed to closed loss that do not exist, and then we see some summation of ARR related to a feature that does not exist, that gives us a list of customers. Like, we wouldn't build just with that list in hand. We would often go speak to those customers or prospects that we lost to understand the impact of that lacking feature, and then build a story about why this feature matters, not just for ARR, but maybe for larger market cap domination, right? There's, I think, a strong correlation between ARR in a lot of cases and lost features. But I think at Clary, we think a lot about how to make sure that our customers' problems are being solved at the end of the day, rather than features are getting built. So if we can draw a dollar amount to problems, then we can go solve those problems.
Yeah, and I think that also part of it is you do have to have some historical context of what partnerships have brought. What are the good data points that you get by having integrations at all or having partnerships at all? And my thought around what those data points are is it's not just, how many integrations do you have? How many partners are adopting or building an integration to you, or how many are you building to them? How many customers have turned on that integration? But it's really that versus something else, right? Number of integrations versus LTV, right? If a customer uses 4 integrations, are they 200% more likely to continue being a customer than someone who doesn't? And so you have to take those initial metrics of number of integrations and then start to tie them to those other things, such as LTV or feature adoption or things like that, for it to be really valuable. And then you can start tying that to new potential partnerships through a prioritization matrix with those metrics in mind.
Amazing. And so what does this all amount to? I know, Katie, you mentioned it's the difference of, a regular product and a legendary product. Kenny, what are your thoughts on how this all kind of comes together on, we're getting this data, we're meeting with our product team, things are happening. Maybe we did some of that, marketing validation beforehand with the button. What does it all amount to? What is the impact of the greater product and client engagement flywheel? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Katie actually already nailed it earlier. It's the idea of you start to move to a platform, and then My ultimate idea of what a true platform is companies exist purely because you do. If you look at Salesforce, HubSpot, they're literally software products and agencies that only exist. If HubSpot or Salesforce went under today, thousands of people who don't work for those companies would lose their jobs. And so that's really the play you're going towards, of moving from product building everything to product building support for other people to build, to people building on their own and growing your product that way. And that's how you get, both Salesforce and HubSpot say that they generate 4x the revenue through partnerships than they do through their own product.
Let's run that back. 4x the revenue through partnerships than they do on their own. This is exactly what becoming a platform does. And of course, engaging with your partners and building those integrations. And so my last question is, how can this be operationalized? Let's say we do build, that integration, and the product roadmap is, set with at least that build with that partner. What happens next? How can we continue to inform ourselves on the performance of that? Display our partners? What is the solution for capturing that? Let's call it the after effect of the partnership being solidified and that integration. How can it be operationalized? Kenny, what do you think?
There's a lot of obvious ways, in my opinion, of you just need to evangelize that the partnership is done. You need to have places where your customers can identify and find that those partnerships exist, those integrations exist. But you can't let it stall out. If you've got a partnership program that you've had out for 2 years, there's probably partners you got onboarded with 2 years ago that aren't doing anything today. You're losing value and you're actually still spending time on them, even if it's passive. And so making sure that you're promoting all of your partners in a way that makes them want to continue to engage with you and get your customers to start adopting those partners. That's really the key thing, because when you look at a customer's life cycle, ultimately their sales cycle should be like 5% of their entire customer life cycle with you. And integrations and partnerships affect the other 95% every single day. And so getting that information in front of your customers every single day is really what's going to help you keep them and keep them happy and truly solve their problems.
Amazing. And Katie, how are you doing that today in practice, or, how are you going to be doing it over the next few months? What does that look like at Clary?
Yeah. One way we're thinking about this is tracking in our product. We're tracking usage metrics, clicks, panel opens of the existing integrations we have in our platform. And then we are mapping those to desired future roadmap use cases. So we think of an integration as an ever-changing, ever-evolving living product rather than a set it and forget it product. We want to make sure that, especially for our strategic partnerships, we continue to track usage of that integration in our product. We also continue to speak to our customers about their usage of this product integration. And then we make sure that we're iterating and continuing to add incremental value beyond first launch of that integration. So it's an ever-growing, they're all ever changing and ever evolving projects. One other thing we think a lot about at Clary is how can we build a really impressive suite of developer tools to allow to not bottleneck integration development to just Clary, but how can we actually democratize integration development and innovation of our platform to others, developers in the short term, anyone who wants to build an app in the long term, right? Taking a page from the Salesforce and the ServiceNow playbook. How can we build not only integrations, but tools that service an integration, and then hand those tools to our partners and have our partners continue that innovation cycle long term across those 2 years, Kenny, with us and using the tools that we build them.
I love it. So we are coming up on the end of the session. Any final thoughts? There's a question that I think we could dive into, but any thoughts before we dive into that? Kenny, Katie?
One thing I'll just say is I'll go ahead and throw my meeting link into the chat. If anyone wants to follow up and book some time, I'm happy to discuss further.
We could talk about this all day. So jump on that if you are looking for more information. Kenny's wonderful. He's done it before. And of course, he's building a product that helps enable everything that we talked about today, which is fantastic. So we'll wrap up with this question. We got about less than 5 minutes left. Ryan asked, any tips for startups with minimal customer data available in Salesforce today? And Ryan, I'm going to assume that means, what information you can use to enter those conversations with the product team. What are some ways that, maybe a scrappy startup or a startup with, again, not as much data can capture that information? We got the marketing button, which I think is a really good idea. Ryan, you could start testing with that. A very simple button to capture interest, something like a coming soon. But what are the thoughts, again, in the last 2 minutes or so on, how this can be leveraged at a smaller startup? Katie, what do you think?
Yeah, one thing I think about is for those of us that don't necessarily have that data at our disposal is to think about more qualitative metrics. So and to be okay with building, have a bias towards building rather than perfection. So if you can start shipping things, integrations, connectors, APIs, and then testing with the market about whether or not that landed, that can help you develop your own metrics about whether or not it's landing, right? Rather than making sure that you're only pulling from existing product usage data. So be okay with shipping and then taking some risk and testing from there. And also lean in with your customers that are leaning in with you, and make sure that you don't feel like you have to release only when you have an entire picture of the customer problem. If you start with a small component of the customer problem and build for that, test and iterate with the market from there, you'll also generate a bunch of data that'll show you where to go next.
Amazing. So what I'm hearing is, build the MVP integration or what have you, and then from there, roll that out as a beta to the select set of clients. You'll probably make them feel really good that they are the chosen ones, and then of course you can iterate on it, and it doesn't have to be a full on release. You're not putting all this marketing effort in to get it out to the market. You're testing with the people who wanted it most. They'll feel special. Then you'll also get valuable data, and then it'll just snowball from there where, the next one will be even bigger because you have more clients and those happier clients stay longer. So great points there. We'll wrap up here. Thank you so much, Kenny and Katie, for that wonderful session. Like I said, we're going to clip that. There's some really good sound bites in there. And everyone tune in to the next sessions for PLX. We're not done yet. Hop into those next sessions. But thank you all for attending this one, for the conversation with Kenny and Katie. We'll see you at PLX.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.